And I'm anticipating you're hopefully going to see a live recording. My name is John, and what I'm going to do is just take you into something that may be of some interest to one or two people. So, what I'm looking at very, very specifically is the whole interesting challenge of the tariffs. So, we know that the USA produced some tariffs this week. Now, what I find particularly of interest has been the impact. So here you have got something called Manus, MANUS.IM. You can't easily just go to a login on that side of it. It has to be something that you actually get an invite code and all the rest of it. But that doesn't mean to say that you can't message me and say, how can I get this sort of information that might be relevant to something that I'm involved in? Okay, so I actually identified that if I'm in the UK and I want to buy some clothing, for example, the clothing might be produced by a country called Bangladesh. Now, I would hasten to say that the Bangladesh clothing might be slightly cheaper than if it was manufactured within the UK. So here's a basic principle. We know that the cost per hour for somebody in another country might be cheaper or more expensive than the cost of clothing to ourselves. Okay, which is fair comment. We know that. So in the UK, you have the national minimum wage. In other countries, they may have their own version of that. What I would identify is that some clothing and items that are produced in China, Asia, Bangladesh, India, etc., may be created or made at a lower cost bracket. Why? Because many of the countries, including iPhone and Apple, produce things like phone components in these countries because they're cheaper. They're cheaper to actually produce. So based on that concept, I was actually looking at what that meant to the consumer. Now, in the past, we would have used Google. However, China, there's a company in China called Manus.im, and they've produced this system that involves using agents that will do research for you. Brilliant concept. But the next concept that has to be added to it is how does it work? Right, okay. So the agent can be actually prompted, as we might have done with Google, with please tell me about this. So you can see here, and I'll highlight it, the questions I have, this question I have raised. Now I used two separate systems to actually produce this. And this particular one, Manus, is the one that's come up with the results that I found the most interesting. So you'll notice here I've got a comprehensive report, and I will put this report out on the site as well to explain. But I want to take you on the journey that has led to this report, which is the reason why I'm doing it on a live stream. And I'm not editing it. I've done an edited version of it as well. So let me just tell you how Manus comes back. Manus comes back and gives me the instructions as to what it's going to do within the process. And it also gives me something called a command data. It also creates a file explaining exactly what it's going to do. Now, these bits are not the most important bits until we get to this stage here. Researching recent US tariffs. So we have here the whitehouse.gov as the website that Manus has gone to do the research on. And it starts doing a research process. It scrolls down, and it did this 25 minutes ago. And you're looking at the site live at the moment, by the way, obviously, because I'm sharing the screen. So it scrolls down, and then it goes into the next processing mode. And it looks at more than that site, it looks at a second site to browse. It then scrolls down those sites, and then it identifies the affected US countries and their products. And it creates a file, a to-do list, as we can see. Identify the countries and products most affected by US tariffs with special focus on clothing and textiles. Again, I'm arguing that it's the clothing and the textiles that I would argue many of the US citizens may not wish to actually work for 50p or an hour or a pound, because at the end of the day, that 50p to a pound would not buy them much in their local store, particularly as we know with egg prices, but that's beside the point. Now, here's the first key bit. The Bangladesh clothing faces a 37% tariff rate. Now, where's the information identified by? Here, Reuters and New York Times, very well respected sites. So I do not believe at this point that this Chinese search system has actually created or hallucinated information. I believe it's gone directly to these two sites and done the research for me. So continue to identify the most affected with focus on the Bangladesh clothing. So it's gone through the CBS News, etc. Again, I've identified Bangladesh as a country that, for example, Primark within the UK is supplied to some degree by Bangladesh clothing. It then looks at moving to analyse the Bangladesh clothing case study in some depth, analysing the Bangladesh clothing, focusing on the US of 15 to 37% tariff. Again, returning to the New York Times and the Daily Star to get that information. It analyzes the study and the exported values and tariff increases. It then calculates the percentage of exports affected in these countries, searching percentage of exports by US, by country, Bangladesh. Now, again, I would remind you that it could be any country, it could be India, China, etc. But Bangladesh possibly isn't one of the ones with the highest area. However, we have actually gone in to look at Cambodia, Vietnam, and the Bangladesh is 17 to 18%. Now, Cambodia is at 37 and Vietnam's 30. They're not able, probably, I would argue, to buy as many US items, these two countries, because they won't have the incomes coming in to pay for US products and services. So, how does this affect the US consumer? Well, here again, we have the information coming back. And then we have the comprehensive file being developed by the AI chatbot, etc. So we've now gone through several minutes worth of recording. I've completed a comprehensive analysis of the impact tariff in various countries and products with a special focus on the Bangladesh area and the US April 2025. So we know this is very much present and up to date, that Manus has used to actually produce this. And there are reciprocal tariffs. Most affected countries and products. Again, Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, Myanmar, and Bangladesh. No, Bangladesh is the lowest level. Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam have higher rates of tariffs. Are they like to have higher rates of income? Are they like to have the US or UK income bracket? No. Bangladesh's garment sector makes 80% of its total exports, with USA accounts 17 to 18% of Bangladesh global exports, 8.4 billion. So the tariff increased from 15.62 to 37, a 137% increase. This threatens a critical industry for the Bangladesh economy. Average household impact on the US consumers. The average household cost increase of $3,800 per year. Whoa. The lower income households will see disposable incomes of 4%. That's average 1.6 for higher incomes. The clothing price increases. Clothing prices rise of 17% and overall inflation at 4.5%. Okay, so this report at the end of the day, I shall give it a whistle section, scroll through so you can see that this data is being produced. This will be available on the file, etc., just to show you. You can see implications and references, etc. You can see the sources. This is all genuine, folks. This is all genuine. So, just to recap, the research has been done, the work has been done to actually show all of this information. Today, I'd like you to just take the time to think about what we've done here. There's an issue that we've known about. There are facts and data that possibly are harder for us as geoblogs to work out. I have used a large language model system that's come from China in the last month to make this video. And you're finding and seeing the data directly presented to you on this video. My name is John Fairest, and I'm an AI consultant, trainer, and just going through this journey myself of discovery as to what's going on in the world. Thanks very much indeed for taking the time to watch this video. Please get in contact if you found the information of interest. Cheers. Thank you.